right, so we're going to be discussing 5 players that could be taken at the top of the board. Obviously, the first one being Druw Jones. Obviously, first thing that comes in mind, yes, he's Andrew Jones' son. Actually has more, in my opinion, a higher ceiling than his dad has.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. He's a much better athlete than Andrew, naturally. And it looks like he works harder at it because he's not like, uh, he's got a different body type than his dad, which found surprising.
Yeah, his body type reminds me of a current Braves superstar outfielder, Ronald Acuna Jr., although I think he's a little bit taller.
Yeah, he's a little taller than I expected, and I think he might still grow a little bit more. I think it's one of my one concern with him is he may end up sliding over in the defensive spectrum, but his hit tool is and power is very much legit, and his defense is impeccable. He's a great athlete. He's a better athlete than Andrew, absolutely.
Well, he's got all the tools. He's going to stick in center field if he wants to.
Yeah,
the only reason why he could fall to number 2 is if Baltimore is I don't know who Jones's agent is. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Scott Forrest, but I would expect them to take him. It'd be crazy not to, unless you're really high on one of the other players, like much more than Jones for some reason. I don't see a reason to draft anyone else if I'm Baltimore.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're Baltimore and you pass up on Jones and he ends up becoming a star player for the Diamondbacks, that's gonna sting for 10 years.
I think there's a good chance of that happening. I think that regardless of what Baltimore does, is that they're going to end up wishing they had drafted a different player. I think no matter what, they're not going to be happy with who they drafted 10 years from now.
Even if they took Druw Jones?
I think they take Lee or they take Jones.
Yeah.
I honestly would not be surprised at all if they took Lee. Lee is going to fit their timeline very well. And he's got enough versatility defensively. He can play second, short, third, left field. You know, he's got it. They'll find a place to put him. So I also don't know that one is going to get paid regardless. But we all know that Baltimore also, unless they're taking a once in a lifetime guy like Adley Rushman, they're not against trying to save a few dollars to use them later in the draft. And comparing Brooks Lee to Druw Jones at 1-1, Druw Jones is going to get paid more.
Yeah, I was going to say Drew's going to command full slot at first overall, I think, regardless if he goes 1 or 2.
Yeah, he absolutely. I think he will get full slot. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't see him dropping past us at 2. There is a good chance. Like James is right. It's not a certain thing that they're going to take him. So
I'll just say
I love him.
I'll just say this: if he falls past Arizona 2, there's a good chance he doesn't sign at all.
Yeah, he will sign on. He won't. He absolutely he'll commit to Vanderbilt.
He'll just go to Vanderbilt and come back in 2 years.
Yeah.
Be 1-1.
He'll be the number 1 pick then if he's not this year.
Well, we know the D-backs won't be taking one under the current CBA because they won't have. If they suck for 2 more years, they won't be in the lottery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Druw Jones goes number 1. Probably sets a signing bonus record, so that beats Torkelson's record if he goes 1-1 by like $1,000 or something. Signs for maybe 8.5. So we'll move on to the second player, like almost a consensus mock pick for the Diamondbacks, Termarr Johnson, infielder from Mays High School in Atlanta, Georgia. Listed as a shortstop, but he's going to move down to second base.
Yeah, he's the player I'm the most high on out of these groups. The group of players that we're looking at and talking about. He's got a really, really, really great He's got great plate discipline, great contact skills. He's got a great attitude. Just from the research I've done on him, he seems like A+ all around drafty. Everything you'd look for with the pick. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he got drafted number 1, honestly, but I think that he actually would be a great pick in number 2. He does. I haven't seen enough in-game footage of his defense to say that he's gonna necessarily slide to second. I see he looks passes the eye test right now. I don't know like how much he's gonna grow. He is young, Of course, the guy is 18. You expect him to get a little heavier and fill out over the next 3-4 years.
Actually, you mentioned that. I don't think Johnson actually has to fill out much more. I think he's close to maxed out now at 190.
He looks like a man to me. Like he looks older than me, and I'm like 35. So, like he looks like a grown ass man right now. So I'm the highest on him. That's pretty much all I have to say.
He certainly fits the Mike Hazen profile of undersized guys with great bats. He's what 5'10"?
5'8".
5'8".
Yeah, he's not 5'10". Yeah, he's 5'8".
So okay, he's my height, but he's the best. He's got the best pure bat of any prepster in the draft. I tend to agree that he's destined for second base. If he gets drafted by the Diamondbacks, that's almost a guarantee because Lawler is already in the system, and Lawler is by far and away a superior defender to
Absolutely.
Johnson. Johnson's big thing is he's got some great left-handed power. I'm intrigued by it. He's not who I would take at number 2, but if I get the appeal definitely. If you're looking for, if you're going to gamble on offensive upside, that's where your gamble is.
I think he's a future Hall of Fame second baseman. Personally,
how much do you value?
I'd put. Oh man, I don't know if I put money on it, but I'd put up maybe $100 on it.
I'd put $100
on Jones. If it accrues, yeah, no, Jones is too, but I think as second baseman has a bigger chance of making, like, if he stands out offensively, I think he's got a better chance of making the Hall of Fame compared to an outfielder or a shortstop. In just terms of standing out, there haven't been a lot of second basemen. So as much as like part of like just the context of his hit tool is unbelievable. There's people are rating his hit tool an 80.
Yeah, I wouldn't rate it that high, but yeah, I would definitely.
I give it a 70 easily. I give his hit tool 70.
I give his current hit tool probably a 55 or 60 with a ceiling of a 70.
Okay.
But I guess if I'm gambling on offense, if I'm willing to
he's a good bet on that, James.
Yeah, I'm he's the guy I'm taking if I'm willing to roll the dice a bit with the second pick, and I want to bet on offense. Then I'm going with Johnson. But there's 3 other guys on the board I'd rather take ahead of him. So
yeah, I was gonna say depending on that Hall of Fame selection, it depends on what you're gonna get out of him outside of the bat. I don't think you're gonna get much, but I don't think you'll get negative value. I think as a second baseman defensively, not gonna win a Gold Glove. You're not gonna win a gold. He's not gonna ever win it. Be in contention for winning a Gold Glove, but as long as he's capable of turning double plays and making the plays he's supposed to, he'll be fine. I'm not necessarily sure what he's going to give you speed wise. I think he's a 50 speed. He's probably a 50 or 55 speed guy. If he can give you 50. Some, present speed and present speed tool is probably what you're going to get because I don't see him filling out any further. He's already worried. He's already at the body he already needs to be at the major league level. So I think he'll actually rocket up to the major leagues a lot faster than your typical high school bat. So he could be here in less than 3 years and debuting at 21.
That sounds about right. 21, 22. Either way, he should move quickly.
The only thing I could see that would limit his upside is how he faces left-handed pitchers. Although we won't know until he hits the major league level.
And with that, we may not even know until he hits AA or AAA if there's even going to be he's got enough hit tool that he can fake it until he makes it. All the way up until double or AAA. It's in double and AAA he's going to start seeing left-handed filth, especially from some of those college arms that are drafted to be bullpen guys from the beginning. That's when he'll start to see some of that filth. That can he lay off those left-handed breaking balls that have 26 inches of break?
Yeah, the Hugh Fishers of the world. Tying in a left-handed bullpen option that was recently drafted by the Diamondbacks. All right, so third high school bat, perhaps equally as much upside as Jones, but certainly a much lower floor. Elijah Green, outfielder from the IMG Academy, University of Miami recruit, although he's probably not going to step foot on campus unless he has an unreasonable signing demand. But obviously, we want to account for all three of them. I have Green as my number 3 prospect in the draft, just ahead of the college guys. He's got as much a ceiling as Jones, but there's a lot more swing and miss in his bat. And
yeah,
I think he's actually more likely to end up in right field since he's already built like one present day.
I was much higher on Green or like last year going into this year. I think most scouts were, and he just really hasn't done much more to really stand out. He does absolutely have a ceiling as high as either of Druw Jones, but he is more swing and miss. He's a little he's a very aggressive hitter from what I've seen in limited amounts of scouting footage.
He has as much power as anyone in the draft. People have been trying to sell me on Elijah Green for over a year now, and I see it. I get it. I understand why so many people are high on him. I personally think that he is going to be very comparable to a younger version of Justin Upton, which is not a bad thing. He is oversized, which is, going to serve him well. He's got great speed. His arm is a cannon. It's not necessarily the most accurate, but
it's legit though.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's got all the things you want. He's got all the tools that scouts can dream on, and his ceiling is as high as anybody else in the draft, including Druw Jones. But his bust potential is very legit in that he swings out. He comes out of his shoes when he swings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's a very aggressive hitter. Out of the 3, he is the most aggressive. I think he's probably the most aggressive hitter out of all the players we're talking about.
And when it comes down to it, that's going to have to go away, or he's going to get exploited. And when these guys that are such great hitters at lower levels are forced to change too much, there's a lot of drop off often. And so I don't know. I like him better than Johnson because of the upside, but I'm not nearly as confident in his bat as I am in Johnson's.
I was gonna
His
say
his pure hit tool is not as good as Termarr Johnson. There's outfielders that profile like Elijah Green that scouts are really, really just high on, or like a dime a dozen that a lot go bust. Like I mean, think of Elijah Duke, Fernando Martinez. Like you can there's a lot of guys that 18-year-olds with power, speed, cannon for an arm that end up flaming out. And
Jordan Adele says hi, by the way, if you want to go over this example.
Oh, that's another one. I don't know if Adele's a bust yet, but I think he's certainly not going to pan out like they've talked about him, like where he's like another Mike Trout, which I don't think anyone should be. You shouldn't be comparing generational talent like that. The only guy who's matched the hype is Ohtani, and that's for good reason because he's not a human being. He's a robot. He's a Japanese baseball robot.
Well, he also hit the major leagues at 25, as opposed to
Adele,
who hit at 21.
His high school, watching Ohtani in high school, there's not going to be another player like him for like anyone who compares someone to Ohtani doesn't know what they're talking about. His high school, when he was playing in the big high school Japanese tournaments, he looked like a man next to a bunch of boys. Yeah. It's well worth checking out on YouTube if you look at some of the younger stuff about Ohtani. But move on.
We're talking about one of the greatest athletes to ever play baseball here.
Yeah, if you don't think that he's a generational talent, then you also don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, he's got a death grip on that MVP as long as he's healthy.
That's the key, is keeping him healthy.
All right. So we'll go to the college bats. Obviously, Brooks Lee being the first one. Cal Poly Tech. Plays shortstop there, but I think he's going to end up moving to a different position, lower down the defensive spectrum. I don't think he has the range to stick it short, but he profiles well for either second or third, depending on where the organization needs him.
He's second base, shortstop, third base, left field. He might even have enough arm for right field, depending on where he's playing. I would argue he has the best bat in the draft. Termarr Johnson certainly has the best prep bat. Brooks Lee, I would say, though, might have the best overall bat. Not quite Johnson's power, but he's
the most polished, in my opinion, if you're trying to make a distinction between the two.
And his strike zone awareness is uncanny for somebody of his age. And, it just he lays off pitches that most guys are swinging at. It's kind of impressive. His numbers that he put up at Cal Poly, they're good but not eye popping.
Conference Player of the Year though last year.
But I think some of his lack of numbers comes from the lack of playing time that these guys have had over the last couple of years. I would have absolutely no problems with the Diamondbacks taking him at number 2. He doesn't have Druw Jones or Elijah Green's upside, and that would piss off a lot of people if we took Brooks Lee, especially because he's not going to stick at shortstop if he's competing with Lawler. But of the players, especially the players we're going to be talking about today, I think Brooks Lee gets to the majors the quickest. And I think he is the most, I don't want to call it a sure thing, but he is the safest bet.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Is he's a very safe bet, very polished bat. His dad's a coach. From what I understand, is he's going to retire from coaching Cal Poly after this season. He does. I mean, overall, as a hitter, I like him the most. Like, he's certainly a very, very safe bet. James, you're right. I just think he's a very boring pick.
Yeah, this organization could use some excitement.
It could.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I'm high on Termarr is this dude has a very fantastic attitude.
Yeah, I don't think attitude will ever be an issue for Lee either.
No.
Yeah, I mean he's got dad, coaching him on constantly. So I think that he's a great, there's no reason to not like Brooks Lee. He's going to be a successful major leaguer, and I have very little doubt of that.
All right. depending on where he winds up getting drafted, he's the kind of guy I could see getting drafted here in 22 and debuting at the end of 24 or early 25. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot for him to prove other than just checking off the boxes. Okay, I did my high A ball, and I matched the way I'm supposed to against these underage guys. Now I'm going to go to double A, and then it's just marking time on the calendar, waiting for an opening. I don't think that there's actually going to be a whole lot of development for Brooks Lee as much as it is just getting his reps.
Yeah, by the way, I've looked up Lee's numbers: 16 walks to 4 strikeouts this year.
He's got fantastic plate discipline.
He walked 18 times last year.
He's kind of janky with his swing, and I kind of bails out on the way he bails out on pitches is a little unusual. I something about it's like watching his at bats and the footage on YouTube I could find earlier. It's just it's not like good or bad thing. It's just unusual the way like he contorts his body to hit a pitch high or low, or like he's like makes lots of contact. But it's just like the way he adjusts his swing is kind of, I worry that he'll get like out of kink, and get out get into bad habits. But he does have a dad as a coach, so it's not really a worry.
You ever hear that Matt Holliday story about when his swing got out of whack, so he called his brother up about it?
No, I've not heard that.
Same idea.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if he's still coaching at Oklahoma State.
Oh yeah, I have heard that. That's right, Matt. Yeah, Matt Holliday's brother, coach. That's right.
So, fifth and final player we're going to talk about today, Jacob Berry. Positionless. I put first base / corner outfield, but obviously more of a positionless bat here. But the guy that absolutely can flat out rake from both sides of the plate. Question is defensive fit.
That pretty much sums up my opinion. Dude can hit, but like he's very likely to be a first baseman or a DH, maybe a left fielder. It's a safe college. It's a safe bet for the Diamondbacks. If they wanted to save money at 2 for these like the two our second and third picks in the draft, I could see them, saving money and going with Berry. Or college bat, which is a little safer, and obviously these high school players have a lot more leverage than the college players. But I mean, he can hit, but he's not kind of not very exciting player.
He's got plenty of power, and that's his calling card, and it's power from both sides. But I don't see any reason to be taking him at number 2. As I've said before, I don't think he's even a top 5 guy unless the Nationals want to surprise us and take him at number 5. All the guys we talked about already are guys I would absolutely take over him. I would also take Susac over him, and I would take Pareda over
I would
him.
too.
I'd take Jace Jung over him. And I think of all those, Jace Jung probably profiles closest to Jacob Berry, but can actually play a defensive position. So, I mean, if we're going to go with a guy who has some great power and a decent hit tool and try to save money, I'd rather see them go after a Jace Jung type than Jacob Berry. Jacob Berry just, when you're selecting number 2, you don't pick a guy that's got as many holes as Berry does. And Berry he's not particularly quick. He's not particularly gifted with the glove, obviously. He's got a very decent hit tool. He's got a lot of power, and that's about it. And I want more out of a number 2 pick.
Yeah, I was going to say the lack of a true defensive position is probably going to slide him out to about 8 or 9, I think, in the draft. The bat's good enough that a team in the top 10 will will take a chance on him, but obviously even a questionable fit for first base is going to probably cause him to slide. Otherwise, I think the
could
bat
see
is
the-
top five worthy.
I could see the Mets taking a flyer on him with their first pick because they get 2 picks in the first round this year.
And they had to sign number 11.
Yeah. But taking Barry at number 11 is actually not a bad call for
That's
them.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I could say that seems like a possible scenario that could play out. The Mets have, zero problem spending money right now either.
I don't think Barry will command more than 11 slot though. If he was
No.
taken by the
Yeah.
Mets.